new graphic there.
Game over. Game begin.
All right, can you guys hear us now, hopefully? Somebody comment. Somebody in the chat, let us know.
There's going to be a slight delay, but yeah, they should be able to hear us now.
Okay.
But yeah, as I was saying, guys, thank you guys for joining us. We got Coach CO, Connor Owings, lined up, about to come on the podcast in about 10 minutes. We're going to run through a couple of quick updates, look into All-Star Weekend here. So let's go ahead and prepare to do that now. So as you see, we have the All-Star teams. Yep, we got to get a present. Let's present that. And we got two teams. We got Team Stars and Team Coastal. As you see, a lot of guys made the graphics. Talk about some of these guys and some of the All-Stars that we got.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. We did our first quick intro and our mics weren't working, so we're good now. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. We got an awesome show lined up. But yeah, everybody's getting excited for All-Star Weekend, Saturday and Sunday this weekend at Mercer. There's our All-Stars right there. So the people have spoken, the fans and the players. We tallied the votes, and that's what it came down to. So really, two really good teams. Super excited for those guys to represent the program as All-Stars, and it should be a lot of fun. So,
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, we got that going on. We also have a couple of quick updates. So as you see, you have Team Stars, Team Coastals. Let's get into a couple of little predictions as we prepare for the All-Star game on Sunday. You got Team Coastal, you got Christian Hewitt and Caden Hogan, Stevens County boys, along with Janaris Reeves, who's had a big season. Brooks Carter has had a big season. And Jackson Thompson has also had a massive season, though it's been shorter because he got started a little later. Obviously, you got Brody Rogerson there, who's been one or two all season. Tyler Burnham just came off of throwing a gem. Wills Gates is Wills Gates. He's going to get out there. He's going to give you, he's going to throw strikes and give you a chance. And then you got Tyler Holmes, fan vote, a 14U guy.
That's right. Yeah. So if anybody who doesn't know, if anybody's new to the program, you guys don't know much about us. Every summer we have what we call All-Star Weekend, which is kind of one of our end of season, end of summer events that we put on. Fans and players get to vote on all the players in our program to represent two teams, two All-Star teams. So the All-Star teams get some sweet custom jerseys that we have made just for this game. And this is what our players and fans voted for. And those bottom four guys on the screen, those are fan votes. We had over, what was it, almost 9,000 people voted.
Yes. Yeah.
So 9,000 votes in the fan vote. That's awesome. We had some guys get like 600, 700, 800. I think a couple guys had 1,000 votes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
incredible.
awesome. So yeah, that's why we do it. We love it. Put together good experiences for you guys because y'all put in work all season, going through high school season, coming out in the Georgia heat, playing summer ball. And so we just want to reward you for your efforts as well. So let's take a look at team stars as you got Jonathan Turner, who's having a great season. He was top 5 until, they took a 3-month break or a 3-week break because the 26 17U Natty doesn't start until this upcoming season. Michael Bailey, who's been a guy for you all season. Of course, Quentin, Logan Wilcher, who we've talked about extensively. Hugh Harris is coming off a great outing as well. And then, just perennial all-stars like JT Barkley as well as Bo Greer,
That's right.
Who's surprisingly not in there for a fan vote, but he had a great season. So
Yeah, no,
he deserves to be an all-star. So
yeah,
shout out to all those
people
guys.
voted for Bo Greer. I love to see it. Are we picking what team's going to win? Is that what we're doing right now?
Yes. So we're about to pick our predictions for what teams are going to win. And I was thinking about this a little bit, last night, and I was like, the hitting is actually pretty even, and it kind of just depends on who shows up, who, doesn't get robbed of a hit here or there. And so then I was like, man, I have to look at the pitching. And so when I looked at the pitching, I was like, I think I have to go team stars. I think they have just a slight edge in the pitching department.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I kind of like Team Coastal personally, but we'll see. I mean, I think both teams have good pitching. It just depends on who shows up, who's going to play well.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I think Team Coastal definitely has the bats, but I think when it comes to, those all-star games, you're going to have two really solid defenses out there. So pitching and defense that's what wins the championship. So that's kind of my philosophy in that vein. So yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some new player cards to open. This is the bronze pack from this past week. Guys who earned Proflytics cards, starting with Connor Price. Shout out to him for earning his spot in the top 9 for Proflytics. We also got Cam Wilder, guy who we just mentioned on the All-Star team.
Both All-Stars, I think, right?
Both. Well, Connor Price isn't going to be there this weekend,
That's right.
so he we had to
A lot of
replace
votes for
him.
Connor, though.
Yeah, a lot of votes for Connor though, and another guy who was, I believe,
Yeah,
was
Trace
on the All-Star
up there in
team,
the
but
votes as well.
he's not going to be able to make it to All-Star season, being way down in Valdosta. But yeah, definitely earned his card as well. So yeah, that is our bronze pack. So now let's get into the home run derby. So we had the home run derby that we put on every year as well. And before we get to that, let's go through some updates. I need to get back down to my ticker here. Sorry guys, I just got back from filming a wedding. Basically, it's like their interviews before the wedding. We're trying to make it like a Netflix reality TV thing. And so I've been all over the place today. So excuse me for being a little scatterbrained. But yeah, so we got some updates. Fall registration is here. We got some tryouts as well. Tell them about the tryouts, Justin.
Yeah, so fall stuff's open. I've been saying it for a few weeks now. If you guys are playing this fall, definitely get registered ASAP. Reach out to me if you have questions. But we'll be back up at Lake Point. The schedule's already been out. You guys can check that out online or reach out to me. I'll send it to you. And then we've got tryouts coming up August 2nd, August 3rd, and I believe August 10th as well. So all that information is online. You guys share that with some people that you might know are looking for a team. We always have the player referrals you guys can take advantage of. But yeah, couple of important updates that people need to know. And remind me later, or maybe I'll just do it right now. Well, actually, we can do it and talk about the Derby, but the Derby and the All-Star game, I wanted to say too, like invite anybody. Like, family and friends show up.
I know you reached out to some of our alumni guys, and we had quite a bit a couple of years ago. Had quite a bit of guys who had played for us in the past come out, watch the Home Run Derby. So that was cool to see. We want to make this more of a family event. Again, tying it back to our theme that we set at the beginning of the summer is Coastal Stars family. Let's get into some of this Home Run Derby. We have 22 participants. Is that
22.
correct?
Yeah, it's 22 guys. We're doing it a little bit different this year. Coach Ked had some ideas, and we took off and ran with it. So you'll see there on the screen, we've got 5 pools. And for all you returning guys, y'all hop in the chat. Tell us what you think about the Home Run Derby pools. Give us some predictions. But the returning guys know how fun it is. And if you guys got a lot of votes on the player ballot or the fan ballot, we put the top 22 guys in there. And what's going to happen is one guy from each pool, whoever performs the most or hits the most home runs, one guy from each pool will advance. And after that, we're going to have 5 guys move on. One guy will get a bye to the championship. He's automatically in the 3-man championship.
Go.
And then the other 4 guys will have to go head-to-head, beat somebody to get to the championship.
I like it.
So it'll be a lot of fun. Everybody can participate in that. We also have the bunt derby that'll take place before that anybody can do. The winners of both will get wood bats. We've got some sweet prizes that we'll be handing out all weekend. And even guys who aren't in the home run derby, we've had wooden bats given out from guys shagging, because if you guys rob a home run in the derby,
you get a free wood bat. Yeah,
so
and it's happened before.
It has. It happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, Matthew Thigpen, who actually ended up being the winner that year, got robbed by Diego.
I think that's right.
Yep, by Diego. So, pretty cool video out there from, I think, 2 years ago. So let's look at these Derby contestants. Talk about, some of the player poll that we put in our group me. Did you have those numbers?
I don't think I might have forgotten to do the player poll. Or we did one a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, we did one a few weeks ago.
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay, no problem.
I think Jackson Thompson.
Yeah, Jackson Thompson's is a big favorite. Obviously, Q. As far as like player votes, though, JT Barkley was, I think, in second, right behind Q. I think only one vote separated them, actually. So looking for, some big thunder. Personally, I think Jackson Thompson's going to take it home. Lefties always just seem to do well at Mercer. So
that's right. That's right.
Q, I love him, but he's still young. So it's like, this may not be his year,
Yeah.
So
No, I hear you. No, either of those guys, I think Reeves could absolutely win it too. Don't sleep on Landon Horn or Joseph Stallings as well. Also, my guy Brody. I'd like to see him try to run one out of the yard. So
yeah. That would be cool to see a younger guy just get in there and scrap together potential championship run there. So we have that. Those were our coaches' picks. So now let's get into some wild cards really quick as we're moving through. So for our wild cards this week, we had Quentin, because we were about to get into our recap of the 16U National Championship that happened about, a week and a half ago now?
Yep.
Yeah, so Quentin, 8 for 11, 3 extra base hits, and 95 plus exit velo on, I believe, multiple baseballs. Oh, yeah. So absolutely tore it up in the 16U Natty. So shout out to him. And that's what put him at number 1 overall in the program going into the, I want to say All-Star break, because that's what they say in the
All-Star
major leagues.
Weekend.
But going into the All-Star weekend. Another guy that we have is Tyler Burnham, who threw a gem in the first game. That's a game that y'all won, correct?
Yep. One of our 2 wins. He went 7 innings, did not give up a run. I think he only gave up 3 or 4 hits. But yeah, fantastic. Tyler's done a great job.
Yep. 5 Ks as well. So good job throwing the rock there. And then our last guy who had a good week at the plate, 56% quality at bats, carry rating at 63. Believe he batted over 300. Taven Harden. So shout out to him. Those are your wild cards from the 16U Natty. So shout out to all of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, all the cards from tonight, I'm going to try to post them on social media. If you guys want your cards, shoot me a text. We'll get you the cards.
Yeah.
Those
Also,
things are sweet.
yeah. Also, the plan for the fall, just to look ahead, is to get these cards actually printed. And so, gonna go and see about how we can, facilitate that process so we can actually hand guys their cards after, they've earned them. So before we get to Coach CO, we want to just briefly just let you in on the MVP race and a couple of stat updates, because this is the last chance for a couple of guys to do something big. Obviously, Quentin, we just alluded, had a big weekend, and these are your 1 and 2 guys. You have Quentin Peterson at a profit of 129, and you got Brody Rogerson at 122. That's the difference between like an at bat or two. And so their actual projections, according to Proflytics, is they're projected to end at 146 and 143. So it is anybody's race here. So who do you think is going to win this?
Man, by how Q hit the ball a week and a half ago at the Natty, man, I'm going to have to go with Q. It all depends on how they play this week, though. So,
well, I'll say who's playing more games, because sometimes that could be a deciding factor too. Well, they're both, in a good or bad way.
Yeah, no, they're both going to play in 3 games this weekend because they're both all-stars.
So 3 games. Yep. It's a showdown between, Quentin and Brody. You also can't count out a couple of other guys, Jonathan Turner and Janaris Reeves, who are at 105, and I think Janaris is at a little bit lower than that. I just didn't update the graphic. But they still have a whole tournament to play. So this weekend is big for them, but they also have the advantage of 5 more games potentially after that. And if they have a big weekend, they can definitely end up definitely in the top 5, but also, bringing home the MVP, Proflytics style. All right, so these are the best seasons of all time. So I just wanted to shout these guys out so you see like where they rank. So obviously last summer you had Parker and Eli are the only 2 people that have had a better season than Quentin Peterson, and Brody, being a young guy, is right there behind them in the mix. And you saw that they're both actually, projected to finish even higher than that. So 1, 2, and Brooks Carter projected to sneak in the top 5 as well for best seasons of all time.
Very interesting.
Also, I had to shout this out too, because Brody's the only guy who's ever had a carry rating over 100, and he's at 108 right now. Gray McLean had 99.97 last summer. So I thought that was super interesting. So if the projections stay true, he will end at 105. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Willie State. That's awesome.
Well, so yeah, now we're going to get into the moment you've all been waiting for. We got the man behind the scenes in the virtual green room, if you will. We got
Hope he's still there.
Coastal Carolina assistant coach, Connor Owings. Welcome to the show.
CO.
Guys, how you doing? Thanks so much for having me.
Good.
You bet. Before we dive into any questions or interview stuff, I'll attempt to give our listeners a little bit of CO's backstory and his bio, if you will. So CO and I had the pleasure of being his teammate in my career, one of the best guys I played with as a dude, and fantastic baseball player as well. So CO, thank you so much for your time. He played at Coastal Carolina 2016. Everybody remembers the dog pile. When you guys beat Arizona, in the
he was in that.
Series. He was one of their guys.
That's awesome.
He was one of their guys. He hit 352 with 16 homers, so he was decent that year. Drafted by the Diamondbacks. And your pro career, man, you've kind of been all over, right? You played in like Venezuela. You've played in Australia. So fantastic career.
Yeah, been all over, man.
Yeah, he's been all over the place. He's got 2 brothers. Both of them played pro ball, and your older brother Chris is, correct me if I'm wrong, like a 10-year big leaguer, right?
Yeah. My middle brother, Chris, parts of 10, 11 seasons in the big leagues. Awesome career, great run for him.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Baseball family, baseball guy. And then you transitioned. This was your first full year as a college baseball coach. Talk about that a little bit. Give us some details on how that transition was for you. Are you enjoying it, man? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to reiterate what you said. Justin and I had the opportunity to play together. One of my favorite teammates of all time. So when I got the invite to come on, absolutely, no questions about it. But yeah, like you said, I had a career being all over, and unique story to where I just finished playing in January. I played the full season in the Atlantic League last year for the High Point Rockers Independent, and then went and played in Venezuela, went and played in Puerto Rico, got home in January, and was kind of on the fence about going and playing again this year. And coaching was what I wanted to do next when I finished playing, and kind of just came down to hang out and see Coach Schnall. I played for Coach Schnall. He recruited me. It was his first year as a head coach with my coach and Coach Carolina legend Coach Gilmore retiring, and we were just talking, and I had kind of mentioned, hey, like, I think I'm going to go play, but let's get together this summer and see if we got anything available to get going. And he actually had an opening at the moment. He said, it's yours if you want it. I'm not going to offer it to anybody else. So thought about it for a couple of days and felt like it was divine intervention for something I always wanted to do. So my first day as a coach on staff here was the last inter squad of the spring, and opened up 5 days later the season. So it was a quick introduction to coaching for sure.
Yeah, and
What a way.
what a ride
Yeah,
for your
that's
first season
insane.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
the season you guys had, CO, I was begging. One of the things I do, especially in the summertime, it's so cool because the regionals are happening, the supers are happening, and then Omaha happens, and it's while we get going. Like what we do is we have a summer and a fall season, so we don't play all spring because our guys are playing high school ball. And I was begging our guys to watch the College World Series, to watch you guys play in the supers, especially when you guys were on the winning streak, man. It was incredible. I was the biggest Coastal fan.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Tell us about that.
That was
Yeah.
hard for you.
it was,
Yeah.
I played against you guys when I was, at Georgia State. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, dude, I was cheering for the Chants for sure.
Yeah. Say as was I. Tell us about that winning streak, because I don't think people understand that they hear the number, but they don't understand how difficult that is, how taxing that is. That takes immense focus, immense chemistry, and everybody's showing up every day in and day out, and putting their best foot forward. To talk about the energy of the team during that streak.
Yeah, it's crazy, like you said. For those that don't know, 26 games in a row, and that streak ended, in the College World Series finals against LSU. But it's funny because whenever you go on a win streak, it's always everybody's talking about it, thinking about it, and it started at the top and went down to our guys. It wasn't one of those things where we were talking about it and thinking about it. We were just so focused on the task at hand and putting together a great next step, right? Whether that was BP, whether it was a practice, whether it was a game, just putting together the best practice of the year or the best BP of the year so far, and kind of just keeping those little tasks at hand just kind of added up to where we were executing at such a high level. We just began to roll. And like you said, 26 in a row is insane. But it wasn't even like a big deal to our guys. I would have been talking about it every second of the day, but they were so focused on the task at hand and just their process and focused on the details of what they had to do to make sure that their role was covered. It kind of just put us on track.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
that's awesome. Cool. Well, that's just kind of getting into the intro there. So first season coaching, obviously probably learned a lot, made some good memories too, because you guys were incredible. And especially going up against that LSU team that you guys had to play. But yeah, so congrats on a great season. And we'll kind of dive into some of these questions, CO. And what we had is I sent you a few questions that we could talk about, and then I had like dozens of other listener questions. So we'll kind of, go through a couple of those depending on how much time we have. But if you need to go at any time, man, just let us know. But I think you crushed a workout before the podcast, right? You said you just got done with the lift. Love that.
Yeah, we had a long day here. We had youth camp this morning. Came in, got some work done. Knew I was lined up with y'all tonight, so I got a little workout in, bought some time. So
Beautiful.
we're good to go.
Beautiful. Cool. So we'll go into the first question. Give us the story. You mentioned it a little bit previously. How did you end up at Coastal Carolina? Talk about your personal recruiting process. And, we're getting old, man. This is like 10, 15 years ago now. So, but just talk a little bit about that. And what are some things you did to stand out as a high school player?
Yeah, I have a unique recruiting story. I think a lot of people do, unless you're kind of, a superstar in high school. Uh, I was a real late bloomer from a physical standpoint. I always could hit a little bit, had some really good feel for the zone and the barrel. Uh, but my junior year in high school, my junior summer, I kind of just became, more physical. I got bigger, I got faster, I got stronger. Went from like a seven runner to a 6'7" runner. Just became, more of an athlete and a college player in that time frame. And Coastal saw me play in Atlanta at Perfect Game. Had a good weekend. Started, like I mentioned, I just became, more athletic. Started for some more power and stuff like that. They invited me down for a visit. Loved it. Loved every second of it. And uniquely enough, the coach that I was in contact with left and took another job. So I kind of left and was out of contact with Coastal for about a month, which is a little unique. But one of my best friends and my high school teammate Mike Morrison was a pitcher, and Coach Schnall and our pitching coach that was here with me, Coach Thomas, saw Mike throw at an event, kind of reconnected us because I was still uncommitted. They invited us both down to a camp, so played a high school football game on Friday night. Mike and I woke up early. My dad drove us down. Uh, Went to camp, had a good camp. He threw well. I got a couple hits. He was the only person at camp to get me out. Uh, and went up to the office, and we both got offered walk-ons just because it was kind of late in the year. So it was my senior fall, if that puts into
Wow.
perspective how late in the process it
Wow.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
really unique story for both of us, right? We both came in as walk-ons and left as draft guys and All-Americans. So a testament not only to the work that we put in, but the development that Coastal allowed us to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading your bio a little bit, trying to do some more research. I can't remember, but it said you started in like every game for 3 years in a row, I think. So yeah, man, that's awesome. I've told my recruiting story a little bit, very similar to yours, and we'll talk about this too. We've got questions about camps coming up soon, but I did kind of the same thing. The Georgia State coaches saw me play. I went to the camp on campus, got in front of their head coach, balled out, got an offer in the locker room that day. So yeah, that's an awesome story, and you got to do it with your boy too. You should have told him to like throw you like middle, like dude, come on,
Yeah. Just
let me hit a
throw me
double.
some meatballs. Yeah. So, I mean, I know it's harder now for high school players to go D1 than it ever has been before, especially with, the transfer portal and everything. But can you just talk about kind of how the recruiting process has changed? Especially it's completely different from, I'm sure, from when we all got recruited out of high school. But talk about how players and families can adjust.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting recruited has always been a difficult challenge as a high school guy, and with the portal now, and cutting down on some roster sizes for sure is going to impact that also. Um, but the biggest thing I think that has changed since we were in high school to now, especially with the portal, and this is a testament also to high school kids now. Kids are getting better at a younger age and are more talented and have more resources and stuff, become better at a younger age. The biggest thing that I think has changed the recruiting process now is it's looking more for guys that can come in and play right away, right? There's no more of that 1 year grace period that we used to have where it would get you on campus, get you in the weight room, let you adjust to some better pitching, stuff like that. Now with all those resources at a younger age and how much the game has changed and kids are better at a younger age or with velocity and stuff like that. That's the biggest thing that I think has changed, right? That schools are looking more for guys that are ready when they step on campus. And to answer your next part, like how can kids and parents adjust to that? I think, the right fit is the biggest key in recruiting, right? For a player and for a family, finding a school that their son can go to and get not only developed and prioritized, but somewhere where they have an opportunity to play, right? So everyone's goal eventually is to play pro ball. The only way that happens is if you can play and show that you can play pro ball. So it's hard to not chase your dream school and chase a bigger school and stuff like that, because that's what everybody wants to do. But for families and kids, I think the biggest focus is finding the right fit, right? Doing your research on the program, doing your research on the coaches, how asking the right questions, right? Like, what would you do to make me better? That's one thing that we always like to do with kids on business, stuff like that. We don't want them or their parents to leave without understanding what we would do to try to make them the best player that we possibly could.
Yeah, what a great answer. Yeah, you talk about the resources at the younger age. I think that's definitely true. And then also, yeah, I mean, the reality is the vast majority of our players will never have a chance to play for Coastal Carolina. And that's just, I mean, obviously you guys are one of the best programs in the country, and that's just the reality of it, right? That's how good you guys are. And so having that realistic expectation of like, hey, where can I actually have a chance to play is huge. And that's one of the biggest things too. We have a recruiting handbook that we give to our guys, and that's one of the biggest things is you have to go somewhere where you can play. So yeah.
Yeah, and another big thing that I liked is, you want guys that are ready to step on and play, which is something we actually heard from a number of other college coaches at our scout day. So kind of talk about the importance, because one coach actually echoed the sentiment that he wants guys that aren't going to, be on campus like freshman year and aren't going to be scared, right? They kind of come with some moxie, and they show up like they belong rather than being intimidated. So talk about how important that is, and, kind of how even younger players can develop that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, and I don't think that's, necessarily, we don't want anyone showing up scared, right? We want people that can show up and are comfortable with our guys in our program and integrating into what we do. But like you said, I think the biggest thing now with not only resources and playing more travel ball and playing better competition year, like in high school and stuff like that, is trusting yourself and trusting that you can step onto campus and compete against these guys that are older guys, maybe are transfer guys, that you belong on the roster, right? That's the biggest thing we try to preach to guys that are coming in at a younger age is, we're recruiting you for a reason, right? You fit our mold, you fit our need, and we think you can step in and play right away. You wouldn't be on campus if we thought we were going to have to build a project or hold your hand through it, right? So that's the biggest thing that we try to instill with our guys, right? Is understanding that you belong, right? There's a reason that we recruited you and got you on campus, right?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Next question I wanted to talk about. Correct me if I'm wrong, CEO. I don't know the number. It was like 170, 180 or something. You guys led the country in hit by pitch this year. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we did. That was something we really
Y'all got hit
prided ourselves on.
170
Yeah,
times.
it's like 180 times.
That's
Incredible.
that's
So
crazy.
I gotta grab my charger real quick.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, 100
Didn't come prepared, but
No, you're fine, man. You're fine. But yeah,
I'm gonna
180
adjust camera.
times
Let
is
me know
unbelievable.
if that brutal?
no, you're good.
No, you're good.
Is that better?
You look
Okay,
great.
I'm back up a little bit.
Cool. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll go straight into the question because it's related to that. Like y'all's reputation is like the gritty, competitive baseball that you guys play. Like you're not getting out of the way of pitches, and I loved watching you guys play in Omaha because it was so easy to teach our guys, hey, like you got to stop moving your feet. You watch these guys; they're doing everything they can to get on base, but you guys like. And Coach Knoll, I'm sure, like, talk about that reputation and that culture you guys have instilled. Like, you guys, there's nobody grittier than Coastal. Like, how do you guys do that? What impact did it have for you this season? And, like, how do you instill that in the guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer, kind of the toughness and grittiness first and how that is kind of introduced to our program. And I think it's something that's been going on for a long time. And that's why it's so effective in our program, right? And like I mentioned, I played for Coach Gilmore. Coach Gilmore coached here for over 25 years, right? Coach Knoll has been part of the program for over 20 years. We pride ourselves on some pillars in our program, right? Being selfless, being relentless, and that's in every aspect of not only the baseball field, but outside in the community, the classroom, stuff like that. But I think that toughness and that grit, is introduced to our program, from the foundation with Coach Gilmore and players that played before me and stuff like that. Just from focusing on the details in the cage, focusing on details of hard 90s, every detail. And I think a big part of keeping that culture and keeping that toughness with the next group is you got to have older guys that buy into that, right? If you buy in to the toughness and being obsessed with getting on first base and not moving out of the way and stuff like that, that trickles down to the younger guys too. So when they're bought in and take pride in that toughness kind of flows out into the locker room and into the group. But that was a huge part of our team this year. Like you said, we just led the country in hit by pitches. And when you look at our offensive numbers, you could argue, it was a down year. They didn't hit a ton of homers, stuff like that. But the biggest thing that we did was adjust to our strengths, right? We were top 2 in the country in ERA. We knew if we played great defense and gave our pitchers some kind of support that we were going to have an opportunity to win. And that's what one thing Coach Mel really said after a lot of these conference games or something like that. We're giving up 3 runs a series, and they're like, it's hard to lose games when you give up only three runs a series.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But that was a huge part of our team, right? Especially on the offensive side. The pitchers obviously had awesome and amazing years, but our position guys really bought into being obsessed with getting on first base and being tough in the box, driving up pitch counts, getting in the bullpen early, stuff like that, and really drove us along with our pitching staff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very good.
Yeah, so hey guys, I saw FinHawk has a question. We're gonna get to those as soon as we wrap up our little portion with Coach CO. But yeah, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. I will be flagging them and saving them. Now, my question to you, Coach, is if you could go back and tell your 17-year-old self and give him some advice on, just anything about the recruiting process or, how to get better, what would that advice be?
Yeah, that's a great question, honestly. And like I mentioned, talking about my recruiting process, I was a late bloomer, right? So I was 17 when I committed that fall of my senior year. So the biggest thing I wish that I would have known at the time, right, and it sounds cliche, is like to just trust yourself, right? Trust that you're doing the right things, that you are working hard enough. That's one thing that is hard to tell yourself at a young age is like, am I working hard enough, right? And you are working hard enough. You're doing the right things from a weight room and nutrition standpoint. And, that would kind of ease myself a little bit. But the biggest thing I wish I could go back and tell myself at that time was to just continue to trust your development, right? Trust that you can continue to get better, right? You're not going to be the best player that you can possibly be at 17, right? I could argue that, I didn't even become the best player I could be until I was 31 in independent ball, right? And I had some injuries and stuff when I played with Justin and had a down year, but, I really built on myself throughout every year of my career and just trust that, you're going to continue to get better. That's the hard part to do at a young age or tell yourself at a young age is I can get better. And if I stay with and stack good days and stack good cage sessions and good weight room sessions on that, I'm going to continue to get better. That's one thing I wish I could have told myself for sure.
Yeah. And I remember I was following your career after, because I hung it up a little earlier than you did. And I followed your career, and I think that's evident that you did that. Because I remember the next year you hit like 25 homers or something.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Still putting up incredible numbers. I was like, let's go.
Yeah,
so that's sick.
That's such a testament to how the mental fortitude that you have. Because you hear the old adage that baseball not only a game of adjustments, but it's more mental than it is physical as well. And as a young kid, it's kind of hard to get a grasp on like, yeah, I am working hard enough. I am good enough, right? That's kind of why we had that, or I asked the question earlier of like guys stepping on campus and being like, yeah, no, I belong here because they brought me here. So how do those, well, I'll lean into your career. How did you in your career, flip that switch and say, you know what? No, like I'm pretty good at this game and I'm going to trust myself. What was it? Was there a particular moment that sparked that?
Yeah, and it's weird, right? There's multiple moments. You can think about down parts, I had some health issues, so I was a little behind my freshman year in college. Uh, and everybody thinks you're a superstar. You're all 4 years, right? I had the most freshman year ever, right? I didn't play a ton, played in like 30 games, hit like 200 on the dot. Um, but then I had my exit meeting, and Coach Gilmore and them really encouraged me that they thought I was moving in the right direction, helped me kind of take a deep breath, went to summer ball, and I got better. And kind of the same thing that happened, in high school happened again. I became a little more athletic, got a little bit more in shape, uh, started to become a better player. And then again in pro ball, right? Like Justin had mentioned, when I was at Coastal, I started and played every single game my junior, sophomore, or my sophomore, junior, and senior year. Uh, After not playing a ton my freshman year. So, and then in pro ball, like I said, didn't play great with the Diamondbacks, got released, went and played some indie ball, had a great year, had some injuries and fought through some injuries. The year I was with Justin, had a really down year, and kind of just looked myself in the mirror and said, I wanted to play baseball for as long as I could, right? Everybody wants to be a big leaguer. I couldn't do that unless I got better. Um, and obviously I didn't ever get the chance to be a big leaguer, but I got a chance to play in a lot of great places and a lot of tough leagues in Mexico and Venezuela and stuff like that. And just accepting, I treated it almost as a challenge, right? How much better can I get this off season? What can I improve on that I wasn't great at last year?
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things too, Josh, I don't think you know this about CO is 2018, you had a kidney transplant, right? I
Oh
remember you
wow.
telling me about that when we were playing together. Yeah, it was your mom, and your career is so cool because it really is like a story of, resiliency and overcoming the odds. Yeah, I mean, there's just not that many people who play pro ball, have a kidney transplant, come back and then continue to have a heck
Yeah.
of a career after that. So I mean, just incredible stuff. And you mentioned some other injuries and stuff. But yeah, man, awesome stuff, and a really cool story to learn from, especially for our guys listening to this. Like looking yourself in the mirror, like you said, and challenging yourself. Like, how much better can I get? And just letting that fuel you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now the kidney transplant, that's unbelievable, man. So
Yeah.
shout out to you for overcoming that, and congratulations making it out on the other side and being healthy and being able to still compete at a high level. That's awesome. That's
Cool.
awesome.
I got our next question. All right. After this one, CO, we'll jump into some listener ones, and they might get a little more weird. Okay. But the last one, I guess we got two more. I forgot one over here on my screen. For our players listening, going back to kind of recruiting process, what is the biggest piece, or maybe a couple of pieces of advice you could give to one of our guys or a high school guy who's trying to play in college?
Yeah, that's a great question. Especially now, you always want to know, what can I do? What can I do? How can I get seen? Stuff like that. Um, the first thing I would say about that, with has nothing to do with actually getting seen or getting recruited, is don't neglect the things that are going to help you get recruited, right? Don't neglect, your diet, the weight room, taking care of yourself, especially nowadays, like we mentioned, with roster sizes and stuff like that. You're going to have to be in a spot to where this team visualizes you coming in and having an opportunity to play for you right away. So don't neglect those things, right? Those things are just as important as going and playing games. And that's something I think kids are getting a better grasp of now, is understanding how important those things are. So don't neglect those things. But the biggest thing that I've started to tell, some of the kids that go to my high school when I'm back in town, or people that ask at camps and stuff like that, is, like I said, make sure you're finding the right fit of somewhere that you has the major you want, somewhere you can see yourself finishing school at first, and then making a list of a couple schools, right? The biggest way that we see kids, and you already mentioned, and I want to talk about, is camps, right? That guarantees that we're going to see you, and guarantees that we're going to be able to watch you and interact with you on campus, right? And that's hard, I know, because camps are expensive and it's tough to do while you're playing. But picking two or three schools that you really like and really could see yourself at, and going on those camps and getting in front of coaches, just like you mentioned with you going to Georgia State and me coming to Coastal and being on campus in front of those guys, that helps push a lot of coaches over the line because they're getting to interact with you for a day or so. They're getting to see you on the actual field, how you interact with teammates from a closer aspect, stuff like that. So those are kind of the two biggest things that I think will help, because the only way you can go to a school that you want to go to is being guaranteed that they're going to see you, right? And like you
Yeah.
mentioned with us, we're recruiting the whole entire country, right? We got guys from California, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Florida, stuff like that. We got guys from all over the country. So, and that's not just us, right? That's everywhere in the country
Oh
that
yeah.
you're going to look when you check on rosters. So making sure that you're guaranteeing yourself an opportunity to be seen is
Mhm.
the biggest thing to tell kids.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple things too you hinted on in your first part of that answer to that question was like the weight room, the diet, the nutrition stuff. One of the things I tell guys, and for any of our players who are listening, I've seen some of you guys in the chat, but any of our players, like, come talk to me, and one of my jobs is to give you an honest answer. And if I don't think you've got a chance to play at a school that you want to go to a camp at, I'll tell you that, and I'll tell you the reasons why. That's why we have our scout day. That's why I know what your 60 time is. That's why I know what your velo across the infield is. Like, at the end of the day, yes, you need to, like, you go get seen, but you also have to be good enough, and you have to be the player, like we've already mentioned, who can step on campus and have a chance to compete.
Right. So yeah, you just want to give yourself the greatest chance of going to a school where you can, actually turn some heads.
Right.
But yeah, see, I like what you said is you have to, get in front of those coaches, whether it's going to a camp or going to a showcase where the coaches are going to be at. Because I think, and I was guilty of this because I didn't really know any better when I was coming up as well. I was like, I'll just play good and somebody's going to offer me, right? Which is what happened. Fortunately, I got a good offer, but I was just kind of hoping, right? And so I think especially in the modern day where you have, social media and you have kids that can put out videos all the time, you have to find a way to get in front of the coaches at the colleges that you want to go to. You can't hope. You have to, take initiative. So can you talk about like the importance of those players, like taking that initiative, and what can they do when they're at those camps to stand out?
It's a good question.
Yeah, very good question. Obviously, like you mentioned, is having some form of a tool, right? Whether you can run, whether you can hit for some power, whether you're super dynamic in the infield and the way you move, is having some kind of tool, right? But I think also a way is, you never want to be over the top, right? But make sure you introduce yourself, right? Say hello to the coaches. The amount of kids, that say thank you and go up to the coach after camp is a lot lower than you would think, right? So don't be afraid to go shake a hand and say thank you. Like, is there anything I can get better at, right? Because that's like Justin mentioned. That's our job also to give you an honest answer as a coach of what we saw from you and what we think you can get better at. And as you mentioned, how can I stand out, right? Is put together a great day, right? Hustle, right? Don't be afraid to run from station to station. Don't be afraid to help pick up some extra balls, stuff like that. Just put together a great day and show that you want to be there. That's half the battle of some of these camps is showing that you want to be there and this is something that you want to do for your future.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Good stuff there for sure. And that's one of the things I tell our guys is like, hey, coach, like, what do I do? Like, I want to go to camp. I'm like, here's some things you need to do. I would email the coaches. I would make sure by the time that you leave that camp, they know who you are and they know your name and you shake their hands. I think that's huge. And same goes for our guys.
Right.
Like, one of the things I have, and I can send this to you, CO, it's I have a sheet that says all coaches have favorite players. That's just how it is. People talk about, he's just the coach's favorite, like in a negative way. I'm like, yeah, I have favorites. My favorite players are the ones that show up, they bust their tail, they're respectful, they bring energy. And I have a whole list of bullet points. Like, what you want to be my favorite player? These are the things you need to do. And those are the types of things, like when I have a guy who comes up and says, hey, thank you, coach, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. whether it's a tryout or practice, a game, whatever the case is, man, like there's certain ways to be a coach's favorite. And the same list applies to a lot of college coaches as it does to our coaching staff in our program. So cool stuff there. Josh, do you have a list of questions as well on your screen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You want to hit him with that last one, number 6?
I got you. Yep. So what is the biggest life lesson baseball has taught you?
Talk about a loaded question.
Yeah, right. I want to respond real quick to what you had said before I answer that. That's a great point also, because kids don't understand when you're young how connected coaches are, right? You can see a kid and someone might call us and say, "Hey, I saw Johnny. I saw, he had gone to your camp. What did you think about him?" Right? Like that question gets asked way more than kids think. So just because it might not work out here, the connection in college baseball is outstanding. So your name and someone else asking you what someone else thought about you is probably a lot greater than it is not. But back to the actual question, what has baseball taught me the most? And you kind of mentioned earlier a resiliency, right? I like to think of it more as like trusting the process over the outcome is a cliche way to put it, but that also reflects to life, right? Sometimes life isn't fair, life doesn't work out, but just knowing that doing the right thing, working hard, stacking up good days, the outcomes are going to be greater in the end than it might look at the time, right? And that's not only a baseball reference, right, but also a life reference also. Like we mentioned when I played with you, I had some injuries, had a down year. It's hard to do that in independent ball, to pick yourself back up and move on to the next point. And it's hard to do that in life also. Sometimes things don't work out and stuff like that from a greater aspect. But I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I've stuck with me and will always stick with me from baseball, is trusting that if I do the right things, if I work hard, treat people the right way, that eventually things will work themselves out.
Yeah. Fantastic answer. And that's one of the great things about this game, man, is it teaches you so much about life. And you're going to fail in baseball, you're going to fail in life. That's just how it is, and that's what the game teaches you. It teaches you how to be a better human being and a better man if you do it the right way. So very cool. That wraps up our first little part of questions. You guys, last chance, if you guys have any questions for Coach CO, drop them in the chat. Yep. Also, you guys let us know if you guys are watching. I see Gray McLean, Cam Water, Wills Gates, Finn Hawk. You guys are in the chat. What's up, boys? But yeah, not too often you get to just ask a coach,
a D1 college coach,
a school that just finished up in the finals of the College World Series, just questions. So you guys take advantage of this opportunity.
Yep, this is free reign. We had some submitted questions that we'll kind of run down, and then we'll let you guys get an opportunity to, get your questions off in the chat. Ask ChatGPT if you got to, but yeah, we'd like to see some questions.
I've got 5 more loaded up right here. I'll start with this one. We mentioned camps, and like you said, CO, it is difficult, right? Because a lot of the times the camps are expensive, and schools run their camps different ways. There's a lot of schools that actually use their camps as a recruiting tool, and it's legit. Obviously, me and you both have that story to attest to that. But at the same time, too, and thankfully there's been some changes in the past few years, but college coaches have to earn a living, too. And so camps are also a tool for that as well. But talk a little bit about, and you can talk about camps in general, and then you can also talk about y'all's camp specifically. But there's that balance to figuring out like, hey, is this camp really worth this amount of money, or am I just going to be one of 300 players on the field? And that's probably too big of a number. That's blown out of proportion. But you know what I mean? Like, talk about that balance a little bit, and talk about you guys specifically and camps in general. If you guys, if you have any tips for players, because that was one of the questions I have from one of our families. They wanted to say like, what about this? Like, if we feel like we're just one of the guys, just a number out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is truthful in some cases, right? I think, we always have a huge Labor Day camp, right? And we have to do it at, we're fortunate that we have a Ripken Experience complex in Myrtle Beach that affords us to have, 4 or 5 fields. And the way that we like to do our big camps is, most of our big camps are multi-day camps, a 2-3 day camp, and break everyone into teams, break them into fields. You do a full showcase, right? You're going to run, you're going to hit, you're going to, throw from your position, but then also you're going to play 2 or 3 games over the course of these days, right? And the big thing that we do to help combat that is we bring in a lot of other schools, like Presbyterian will come, Winthrop will come, all these schools, you can go down the list. So you're not just, getting in front of 5 or 6 coastal coaches, right? There's going to be coaches from all over the country that are there. But if that's a concern and feel like you might get lost in the mix, goes back to doing your research, right? We do a couple hitting and infield camps that are capped at 50, 60 players, right?
Right.
We
Yeah.
do a lot of those in the fall, early summer that we cap them so you can have that. I don't want to, say more of an intimate experience where there's less kids. You're getting more reps in front of coaches and stuff like that, and you feel more comfortable and feel like you're getting seen more, right? So for parents and stuff that might be a concern, or kids, make sure you're doing some research and finding the right camp that you want to go to, right? If you feel like you might get lost in the mix at that bigger camp, and you can showcase more from just an infield showcase or a hitting showcase, make sure you're doing that research and finding the right camp to go to.
Yeah, very good answer. And like I already said, both of us were recruited and offered after camps. So there's no doubt of the value there, especially too, like, with the last couple of years, the Division One, recruiting timeline rules and the no contact and all that stuff that, that's constantly evolving. They've become even more important in my opinion. So very cool. I've got another one for you. What separates players that succeed at Coastal Carolina from the ones that don't?
Wow, tough question, right? You know, and we're super honest with kids when we recruit them, right? To come to Coastal Carolina, you have to love baseball, right? If you like baseball, Coastal's not the place for you. If you love baseball, you're going to be just fine, right? And we pride ourselves on this from an aspect of you're going to get more reps than anyone in the country, right? From a hitting aspect, a lot of small group stuff, infield work, and like I had mentioned multiple times, you've heard me talk about details, right? We do a lot of practice and rep certain things that might only happen once in a season, but we care about those details and think it's important for our guys to care about those details, right? So the people that really take leaps forward at Coastal are the people that embrace that and embrace those reps, and they don't waste anything. And something else that we pride our guys on and tell them is, what we're asking them to do is the bare minimum, right? We got a beautiful indoor facility that's 24/7. They got access to all this stuff. So we're expecting our guys, and that's one thing that helped make us great this year, right? Our guys have bought into that mentality and are doing the extra things, doing things on their own, trying to get better. And that's the thing that really separates guys that come here that skyrocket and develop into great players, and somebody that might just not work out for is buying into those details and buying into those reps and doing things on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was
Awesome.
that was great. The next question actually ties into, what one of our players just asked in the chat. He said, "Hey, coach, so what would be the main thing you look for in a freshman pitcher?" And as you answer that, also just answer, what you look for in a recruit in general.
Yeah, pitcher is a little hard for me. I'll give you my best answer, but the main thing that we look most of the time for, like I mentioned, is what do you do well, right? Do you have a really quality fastball? And can you ride it? Can you sink it? Do you do something with the baseball that gives us an opportunity to grow with you, right? And obviously, as a pitcher, what do you look like? Go look at our roster. What's your body type? What do and that's not saying that we can't have 5, 6 pitchers because we have, right? But, don't neglect those things, like I mentioned, like the weight room and stuff like that. You're going to step on campus and, we have guys throwing 98, 99 miles an hour, right? Cameron Fluke, I don't know how many of your guys watched the College World Series. is going to be a first rounder for us next year. Was a sophomore this year.
Yeah.
Throwing 96, 98 into the seventh inning
Yeah,
of the
crazy.
College World Series. So stuff like that. But like I said, not only for a pitcher but for a recruit in general, what can you do that we can build on with you, right? Because we do pride ourselves in development guys, right? And development in guys is what do you do good that we can build on? What do you do with the baseball? Do you move? And sometimes it's how do you move, right? We had a freshman pitcher this year who threw in some big games for us as a midweek and a weekend guy at times that didn't start pitching until a senior in high school. He's a shortstop. And our pitching coach, Matt Williams, just saw him and loved the way that he moved and thought that he could build on that, right? So sometimes it's not even you being that guy at the time, right? It's just something that we can take away that we like and can build on.
Yeah. You mentioned Coach Williams. He just won Assistant Coach of the Year, right? And so I saw that
Yeah,
pitching.
absolutely.
I saw that pitching question come up, and I was like, CO might be more of a hitting guy than the pitching guy. I think Coach Williams has got that under control. But yeah, no, even that answer, that answer was still a great one. Having something to build off of, or a way that those guys move.
We talk to our guys all the time about being able to do multiple things. We always encourage them to, don't just confine yourself to being in one position, whether you're an infielder or an outfielder. Like if we need a guy here, like the answer is always yes, coach. Like, or let me go learn, or let me go experience it, because the more versatile you are and the more positions that you can play, it just ups your, value, especially in the, college recruiting process.
Yeah. Very good stuff. A couple other questions, or Trent asked one in the comments. I need to know if Bo Greer's here, because I have a Bo Greer specific question.
I don't think Bo Greer is here, but
that's fine. CO, did you guys have anybody on staff this season that threw a knuckleball?
From a pitching staff?
Yeah, on your pitching staff.
Oh, he's got position guys throwing them.
Yeah. 0 knuckleballs thrown this season.
Okay,
wow.
No, that's the answer. That's the answer I needed to hear. We have a knuckleballer who's also a knucklehead. That was one of the questions he submitted. Did you guys have anybody who threw a knuckleball? So 0 knuckleballs. So we'll have to tell that to Bo.
Yeah.
But Trent asked a good one. I don't know if you want to pull it up, pop it on the screen, Josh. Yeah. This one comes from. Oh, not that one. We kind of are.
It's delayed.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, we already kind of talked about the recruiting, I think, enough. Trent asked, you guys were one of the leading bunt teams in the country. Can you discuss the Coastal Carolina philosophy on bunting?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's nothing new, right? Anybody that knows coastal baseball and has paid attention to what we've done over the past 2 decades is that's a big part of our game. I know off the top of my head because obviously I was on the team, but 2016 we led the country in homers and we're top 3 in stolen bases and sack bunts, right? But for what we teach our guys, right, is when we're bunting, we never want to, we're not trying to give away an out, right? We're trying to move the runner up in the process, but we're also trying to put pressure on the defense. So 99% of the bunts that we put on it and teach our guys, we're bunting for a hit, right? We're putting pressure on the defense and making them execute, right? I don't know if you guys watched the Auburn series or anything in the Super Regional, but it wasn't a bunt. It was a swinging bunt, but they didn't execute, threw the ball away. We scored, took the lead in the 8th inning, right? And that's kind of what we pride ourselves on, is constantly applying pressure to the defense and making the other team execute. Just like it goes with being obsessed with getting on first base, it's how can we apply pressure to the visiting team or whoever we're playing for 9 innings, right? Yeah. We want them to get on the bus or go lay in bed that night and be like, man, that was physically draining. It didn't stop.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys also were one of the leading teams in the country in stolen bases, if I'm not mistaken. If you want to talk about that a little bit, talk about applying pressure on pitchers and on defenses as well. Stolen bases is a great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned with the sack bunts and stolen bases. And it's funny because, like I mentioned, it's not like we had had a burner that went out there and stole 50 bases for us, right? It was a process of our entire team. And I think that's something that our staff did a great job of this year, is not only from a scouting standpoint, but putting our guys in a position to be successful, right? We do a lot of stuff from fake breaks to dirt ball reads and stuff like that, to where our guys are always in their head of being aggressive. But like you mentioned, just putting our guys in the right situations, the right counts, and stuff like that to just put some more pressure onto the defense.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, you guys you're bunting, you're stealing bases, you're getting hit by pitches, and this is a modern era where everybody's focused on the 3 true outcomes, which is walk, strikeout, or home run, right? And I guess that's all driven by, like, modern data and stuff. So I wanted to ask, especially me being a more analytical guy, how much focus do y'all put on, data, or do y'all focus on data, but just in different areas that play into your game and your style of play?
Yeah, everything is relevant, and it's actually funny because we have a guy that is a younger guy that, in my opinion, is like the best young analytic guy in the country, Matt Pepin. If you don't follow him on Twitter, go follow him on Twitter. And he's done a breakdown of a couple of our pitchers and stuff from this year and stuff that they did from an analytics standpoint to help improve them, right? And not only from an offensive standpoint does it help us, but pitching is where it really thrives in our program. And Coach Williams and Coach Pepin have done an awesome job in using data to help improve, like, the quality of fastball, right? That was a big thing they prided themselves on. I think if you go look at the latest tweet he put out, I think it was today actually, it was talking about the quality of fastball improvement as our staff this season, right? I think we're top in the country in induced vertical break and stuff like that from a pitching side. But from an offensive side, we do still pride and teach ourselves guys on slug, right? We want to drive the ball in the air, right? We're never just looking to put the ball in play. Mm-hmm. And obviously that changed based upon situation and executing and stuff like that. But we really take pride in swing decision, and it's almost funny to say now, but with TrackMan and umpires getting reports, we really teach our guys to shrink the zone more than anything, right? We want to hunt more of a circle than a square, right? And instead of hunting like a box, the strike zone, like a box, we want to hunt an oval almost, right? Something that we can do damage with and be okay with taking borderline pitches. And that's hard to get people to buy into, right? Because they get a borderline pitch striked on them. They're like, oh man, it gets in their head, stuff like that. And that's something that we have to go through a process of teaching our guys, but being okay with taking that borderline 1-0 fastball that maybe I could have done something with to get something more over the middle plate that I can get a good swing off of, rather than just maybe doing something with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was awesome. I hope guys were listening to that, because
that's some
that was some
right there.
Very valuable information, because from our perspective, like, we, especially in summer ball, like, we want to put as much pressure on the other team's defense, especially with guys. A lot of these teams don't practice together. Like, got to put the ball in play. But I like your philosophy of, like, hey, like, you can be a little more selective, but look for that pitch to do damage with, right? Rather than just going up there and, grounding out on a, outside fastball that you just rolled over on. So no, that was very valuable.
Yeah. So what was the name of the analytics guy you just said that you guys have?
You said Pippin?
His name's Pepin. Pepin. Matt Pepin. Yeah, go look at him on Twitter and send that to your guys. He does an awesome job of not only with our guys, but communicating that on Twitter and breaking some of the stuff that we've done down and done really well. And like you said, and Justin can vouch for this, I've always been a big believer of hitting the ball in the air, especially as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Justin get paid to play shortstop, right? He gets paid to catch the baseball, right? So if we can put ourselves in a great position and hunt a certain zone to get our best swing off, it gives us a better opportunity to produce.
Yeah, quick CO story for sure. I was telling my dad this today. He was asking about the podcast and about you. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, this guy, CO's a left-handed hitter. And without a doubt, one of the guys I played with that had the easiest pop I've ever seen. We played at a field when I played with CO. It was a short field in right, and I mean he could probably hit home run, with a wiffle ball bat. And I was a guy, I could get the bat head out and hit the ball. We had kind of a tall wall in left field, and I could hit it out, pretty regular in BP. Connor would go up there and he'd hit oppo homers significantly further than my poolside.
Your poolside homers.
Yeah, consistently. And I'm just like, this guy is
crazy.
incredible. But yeah, no, hitting the ball in the air for sure. Love that. And then let's see. I don't know if I had any other questions on here or not. I had a good one from one of our coaches. Let me pull this one up. Josh, did you have anything else that you wanted to run by him?
I think that's all the questions I had.
Cool. Let's see. And see, I know, with you just kind of getting into the coaching stuff, obviously, your stuff. You're a baseball guy. This is a question here. When going to a travel tournament to recruit, and, this might be something you don't have a ton of experience with yet, which is fine. You're still going to have a great answer. You're not a pitching guy, but you had a great answer for that question. But when going to a travel tournament to recruit, is there anything you look for before a game starts that puts a check mark next to a player to watch?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, right? I haven't really been on the road recruiting and stuff like that, but I've had so much history with Coastal and being around and listening to our guys talk. From a position side, it seems undervalued, but the first thing that we do when we're going to go watch people play, and even at camps, right, is we watch you play catch, right? Especially as an infielder, right? The couple things we look for, it's super cliche, but like when you catch the ball, does it stick? And when you throw it, does it go where you want it to go?
Yeah. And
if you can't do that in catch, how do we expect you to do that when pressure's on and a good runner's getting down the line and it's a tough play? Right. So catch is something that we really actually take notice of, right? And, that might not be for everybody. Every school might not have a different answer for that. But I know from listening to our infield coach, Coach Schilling and Coach Schnall and Oxendine and our guys that get on the road and recruit, that's a big part of the game that we watch. And not only from a pregame, but an in-between anything, right? It's hard to take those reps seriously as a younger person, but that might be the only ground ball we see you get that day is in between innings, right? Yeah. So taking that rep seriously and giving yourself some room to make a good, strong throw, not taking it from the infield grass cut, right? Taking it from the outfield cut and putting yourself and your feet in a good spot and make a good throw is stuff that we really watch. And this is just something personal. Is I like the way to see how you interact in the game and how you get off the field, right? Are you talking to your guys? Are you communicating and not like asking what you're doing for lunch, but hey man, like this guy went 4-hole last time, like let's take a step to your left, or hey, I have this ball down the line or something like that. Just like you're constantly moving with the game is something that I like to look for at camps and for sure when I would get on the road. Yeah,
kind of game awareness and moxie. And one of the things too, like, this, you can't teach feel. Like you can watch a player take ground balls and you can be like, oh, this kid's got feel. He knows what's going on. And it's easy for coaches who know the game and have been around the game a long time to see that. And that's kind of the stuff he's describing. But a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, we need to put that on a t-shirt. You can't teach feel.
that
is a t-shirt for sure.
Teach feel. Love that. I think that kind of is about all we had. CO, man, I greatly appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, man.
I've got your address. I'm going to send you some of our gear. The good news is it all says Coastal on it. So, maybe you could wear it, maybe not. Either way is fine with me, but we greatly appreciate your time, CO. You are the man.
Oh, we do. We just got a question in 27 seconds ago from Quentin Peterson. He did ask that you can answer real quick. He said, when working to get recruited, which coach should you email most?
Yeah, I could probably answer that one too. But you go ahead, CO.
Yeah, go ahead with that.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah. Let me hear what you say.
All right, I'll go. I know we're a little delayed here. We're just saying the same thing to each other. All right, I'll go. I mean, typically, and I'll answer this one, Q, and I'm sure I've talked about our guys too, and this is probably in our recruiting handbook, but typically you can figure out which coach on staff does the majority of the recruiting. Most schools are going to have a recruiting coordinator, and like CO kind of hinted at, like they've got a few guys who travel and do a lot of the recruiting. It sounds like CO does a lot of more of the recruiting at the camps. But typically, you can look at the emails listed on their website, and you can figure out which coach does the recruiting. And one of our coaches we had at Scout Day, I can't remember what school he was from, but he made the point like, hey, don't just email like our head coach. Like a lot of times, the head coach has so much stuff going on, like he doesn't have time for your email. Like send it to a few of the other coaches, like the recruiting guy, the assistant guys, like CO's listed as the player development type guy. Send it to those guys as well. So and I think that's what Q is asking with that question is what coach to email, possibly on staff. Is how I took that. CO, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to build off that, that's a great answer from what you said. And I can speak for experience with Coach Schnall. A lot of these head guys have so much on their plate. They might not even have the time to look at it or forward it to their recruiting guy, right? And don't be neglected if you don't get an answer. That's something that I really tell a lot of kids, right? There's so many rules to when we can talk to kids and stuff like that, And when you're talking about with me recruiting at camps, absolutely. But also a big part with me and not getting on the road right now is, I do a lot of social media recruiting, and being able to see, some swings, some stuff like that. So, don't feel neglected if you don't get a response or if what you're posting isn't getting interaction, right? A lot of stuff has changed with the rules and stuff like that. We're not allowed to talk to 2027 until August 1st, right? Unless it's at a camp or something like that.
Right.
So, I've had a lot of 27s that are emailing me or messaging me and stuff like that. And you feel bad because you want to tell them, hey, I can't talk to you, but that's just kind of the way it works with the rules and stuff like that. So don't, familiarize yourself with the rules and stuff like that. That way you're not beating yourself up for not getting a response, right? And it's the same thing like camp, right? Put yourself in the best position to succeed, right? Don't just be sending it to the head coach, right? Go on our website, find the recruiting coordinator. We have a recruiting coordinator and a director of recruiting, right? So there's two guys on staff right there that you should email if you're interested, right?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Coach. So you said you do a lot of social media recruiting. What do you look for when you're just going through a guy's profile?
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes it can be just something simple, like how he got out of the box catches your eye, like the move, right? And that's something that everybody's different that we look for, right? At Coastal, we're looking for moves that we like in the swing uh, that we teach, and that's part of the way that we recruit is we want to recruit guys that match our mold.
Right.
That way, when you get on campus, instead of trying to change what you're doing, we're trying to improve it and tweak it and tighten it up, right? That's kind of what I tell our guys, right? We're never trying to change you, right? We're trying to tighten it and tweak it to make it more consistent and better. So that's kind of how we recruit in that aspect, is we're looking for someone that fits our mold as a position player. So that's all. It can be as simple as that, right? Like just seeing a move that I like, seeing you get out of the box a certain way. Stuff like that. So it doesn't always have to be a homer or anything like that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, again, thank you, Coach. That is from Justin's brother, Trent. We can't thank you enough for coming on. You got a camp coming up, don't you? When is that camp? What is that?
Y'all go follow Coach CO.
Oh, wait, put that back up. Put that back up.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. You guys go follow all of our players. You guys go follow Coach CO at Connor Owings. CO, I just followed you with our Coastal Stars X account, so you'll have us on there.
Perfect.
You go check out some of our players, see if there's anybody that you might be interested in. We got some solid guys in our program. So, but yeah, CO,
I don't doubt it.
We've got give me some other info too. Like if you have any camps coming up, obviously you can send me the info and I can send it out to all of our guys. But do you guys have camps coming up? I know you mentioned some fall stuff. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll send you that graphic for our camps. But we got two of our bigger camps coming up, kind of end of the summer and Labor Day, July 25th to 27th is kind of our pro select is a 3-day camp, and you kind of we pride ourselves on this camp with a little more instruction. Right, you're going to get a little more instruction. You're going to go through a pro style workout, and you're going to play some games also. So that's kind of what we pride ourselves on that. And then we'll have our big Labor Day camp, as I mentioned, in August, where it's going to be a lot of kids, but you're going to play 3 games. You're going to hit BP every day. We'll have one day where you run the 60 take ground balls in front of coaches and stuff like that. And like you both mentioned earlier, at those camps, we're going to ask you to do different things, right? Play different positions, put you out of position to make you uncomfortable, to see how you interact with that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I mentioned also, when you asked that question earlier, if that's something that you feel uncomfortable with and that you're going to maybe get not seen, right? Do your research. There's a lot of hidden camps, a lot of camps that are capped, stuff like that. So we do a lot of those of smaller camps also along with the bigger camps. So we'll have some of those smaller individual camps coming up in the winter after we get done with our fall season.
Awesome. Well,
fantastic. Yeah, send me the info. I'll be happy to send it to our guys. And I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. You went in as a walk-on and left as a draft guy. And so you guys know how to develop players. You guys know the game. You guys were this close to winning the College World Series. And so for our guys listening, you guys want to get better, I would encourage you guys to check out that opportunity. Go hang out with CO. And send me that info. I'll send it to our guys. And I'm going to send you a little something in the mail. We appreciate your time, CO. And Josh, you okay over there? Okay, he's all right. But any of our guys still listening? All-Star Weekend coming up this weekend. It's going to be fun. CO, I'll have to send you the schedule. We have our All-Star Weekend. We voted on All-Star teams in our program. We have an All-Star game. We have a home run derby. We have a bunt derby. So yeah, you might see some video clips if you follow us back on social media. Yeah. So that's what we got going on this weekend. So it should be cool.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much, man. And just knowing you and the kind of person you are, just I know that org and stuff that you guys run is elite. So I appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah, for sure. And CO, in the next 50 years, if you ever want to coach some travel ball, I got a job for you. Okay,
yeah, just come talk to us.
Yeah, no, I might be looking for one more fall coach for us this fall. So if you got some downtime, let me know, brother. Send me some names of some good guys. But we appreciate your time, CO. Thank you so much for everything, for answering the questions from our guys and from our listeners. Go Shants, and I think that's all we got for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank y'all, man. You hit the nail on the head. Go Shants.
Go Shants.
There it is.
CO, take care, man.
Yep, that is Coastal Carolina assistant coach, CO. Before we get out of here, we just want to thank you guys for everything you're doing. We're going to put up the silver and gold cards really quickly before we get out. And we will see you at All-Star Weekend here in the near future. So with our silver cards, we have Caden Hogan coming in, getting a silver card, as well as Caden Johnson with the hack there. And we also had Brooks Carter, who's having a really good season. And then let me scroll to the gold cards. I had them a little out of order. But yeah, Justin, you're going to post these on social media later, correct?
Yeah, I might drop them. How soon can you get them to me?
I got them all. I can just email them to you right after this. I got them all.
I might try to do it tonight. If not, I'll do it tomorrow. Send those things out. Those things are awesome.
Perfect. And then here we got the gold standard, if you will. Gold cards coming in. These are the guys making a big impact. Jonathan Turner, as well as Quinn Peterson. And you probably can guess this last guy, Brody Sir Rogerson. So shout out to everybody who earned a card this week. We'll be getting those out to you. Justin will be posting them on social media. Again, thank you all, Coastal Stars family. And we will see y'all this weekend. And then back on the digital airwaves, probably after the 17U National Championship.
Yeah, maybe end of July we might have another one. We'll run it back.
Yep, run it back and ready for the fall. All right, guys, y'all take care.
Game begin.